welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Today we are going to be reviewing the Omnion Lance², which is a brand manufactured by Proxima. Now, a couple of weeks ago I unboxed 3 Proxima watches, this being one of them, but we are going to treat it as a separate brand, just letting you know it's a sister brand of the company called Proxima. Now, I reviewed the MM300 Homage. Now it's time for the Lance². Now, in the unboxing, I did cover all the specifications and dimensions, so I won't be doing that in this video. Instead, I will put them up on screen for you guys to take a look at. Now, in terms of original design or homage, I haven't seen a watch that is like this. So if you guys know of a branded watch that does have this particular dial setup, then let me know in the comment section below. Until then, I will treat it as an original piece. Now, in the unboxing, I did call it Omnion. As you can see, the text just below the 12 o'clock, it actually states Omnion. But going on to Proxima's website, they've actually called it Omnion, and this is the OM01 model. Maybe they've done something funky with the text, maybe turned one of the parts of the M upside down, who knows, but it is quite confusing. So before we start, on wrist I'm wearing my 54 watch 62 mass homage, which has been modified by myself. And now let's get on with reviewing this Omnion. Now, how did I get on with this? It isn't my usual style of watch, as you guys probably can see. After a few days on wrist, it did start to grow on me, and one of those things which actually grew on me was the way that you can tell the time. Now, of course, this is not your traditional way of telling the time. There are no hour markers. You don't have 3 hands, you've only got a single seconds hand, and on the printed chapter ring you've just got the seconds timings going in 5-minute intervals. The actual hour and minute hand is to your left on these 2 discs. And now, as far as telling the time, it did take some getting used to. And like I said, after a couple of days, the watch did start to grow on me. I started to appreciate things away from the dial, in terms of the case, finish, etc. And what I particularly like is how they've engineered the PT5000 movement. Now, Proxima have shown great ingenuity with the NH35 and NH36 in some of the other models. The way that they've shown the date and date functions, they've got cutout dials, put the date in the center. So I really do like that technical aspect that Proxima have brought over to this brand for their first watch. So let's take you through the time. You do have a screw down crown, single click. Now, usually the PT5000 does have a date movement. This is a ghost position, and there is no actual date disc that you can feel changing over. And when you pull the crown out the second time, that will hack the movement, and then you can go ahead and change the time. So it's quite easy in the way it functions. You've got the minute disc that is closest to the center of the dial, and you've got the minute markings. And of course, you line it up with that arrow outlined in orange. And then you've got the disc on the outer side, which is your hours. So that is pretty straightforward, nothing too complicated about that. And it is a visual that you've got to get used to. Once you're used to that, it's actually a pretty nice watch, and telling the time isn't so difficult. And I did start to appreciate this single seconds hand, nicknamed the Lance. Now, I know it says the Lance², or is it Lance²? I'm not too sure because I haven't seen a version 1 from them, but that is what they've got on the dial. Now, the dial itself is by far the standout feature of this watch, and it is similar to something that we saw on the Proxima MM300. They've gone for this horizontally brushed metal look, and I think it is a fantastic way to finish off a dial. It is a sunburst effect without it coming from the center, because this dial does go through a few different hues of blue. You can see this very bright, almost teal like in the center, and then of course that darkens up depending on which way the watch sits, so you get a lot of variation in the color. The dial is predominantly printed from the chapter ring and the markers to the logo at the 12, to the Lance logo just above the 6, and of course the hour and minute disc. Everything is fully printed, and all the markers that are printed are actually loomed as well, except the logo at the 12 and the Lance above the 6, which we'll see just a little bit later on. The second hand is finished beautifully with that center top cap, which does not expose the pinion, so I think it's a good way to finish it off. I think the only criticism I've got of the second hand is I wish it was just a touch longer. That would have looked, I think, quite a lot nicer had the second hand been stretching almost towards the edge of that dial. Now, they have topped off that watch with a nice highly polished bezel, Really nice touch. Of course, the polishing is absolutely flawless. And then we look at the case. Now the case has got this very beautifully satinized finishing. Very nice brushing present. If you look at the lugs, you can't even see the grain. All you can see is this very smooth satin-like finish. You can see the lugs are slightly elongated, curved, a very nice shape. Turn the watch to its side and you'll see again this horizontal brushing present, satin finished. You do also have drill lugs, making strap changes an absolute ease. And they've gone for this beautiful feature that I love on all watches, where they've got this polished edge all along the side profile of the case. Really nice and clean transitions. You can see just immaculate, very smooth and crisp lines. Absolutely love that on that finishing. The crown is polished with no branding. You've got some nice nailing, and you also got a silicone ring on the center of the crown, perhaps to aid the operation. The grip is okay. The crown is about 6.8 millimeters. The grip is good, a very functional crown. Screws in nicely, and it also screws out very well. Now, another note about the case is the fact that you'll see two screws, one at the 12 and one at the 6. And Proxima started this off on a few different models where you can actually remove the outer case, leaving you just the centerpiece, which would be this bezel part, and of course the case back. And they've done that in order to make different cases so you can effectively customize your watch as you please. So I will be interested if they do make different cases, which you can actually take this watch out. Otherwise, it's an absolutely useless feature. However, this does not affect the water resistance. I know a few people have voiced their concerns because the crown will still screw down, and the only thing you might get is a bit of grime, etc. In the gap there, but that can be easily cleaned out once you do remove the case. Now, moving on to the case back, you actually have a sapphire see-through exhibition back. Now, along that sapphire crystal, you've got white text telling you specifications on the watch. Now, the logo they've gone for is quite interesting. It's actually quite nice to look at. It's a polar bear on top of an iceberg, and as it submerges through the water, you can actually see a penguin on there. I don't know what that has to do with the Omnion brand, but it is present. And as well as that, you can actually see how easy it is to regulate the PT5000 movement with that little screw there, just by the regulator allowing you to adjust it. Now, on that note, this movement is currently running at around -4 seconds a day, healthy amplitude, and a 0 beat error. I mentioned the dial is fully lumed, so let's have a look and let's see how good that lume is. Now, the lume did need a bit of direct UV exposure because, as you can see, the printed markers and everything which is lumed, they're not that thick. There's not that many layers applied, so the lume isn't as bright. It is quite faint after the initial direct UV exposure. Now, the lume visual itself is quite cool to look at. I like everything that they have illuminated. It just would be good to apply a few more layers so that is actually visible for a while. However, as it stands, it doesn't last very long. Now, the strap they've provided this on is a two-piece nylon NATO style strap. It is okay in terms of comfort. It's not the best. You've got some really nice stainless steel brushed hardware. The safety buckle itself has been finished really nice. You've got the polished sides and the brushed center, again satinized brushing. Very nice hardware, I gotta say. But I will be changing out on a few different straps and show you how they look. First strap I'm going to show you guys today is this hybrid FKM sailcloth style of strap. It's actually not a sailcloth top material. It still is this rubberized FKM. Very supple, does have white contrast stitching, really nice grain pattern on there, and you got the rubber pattern on the reverse. Now, the straps that I'm going to be showing you with this watch are all available on my eBay store, so it is a bit of product placement, and if you want to check out, please check out the link to my eBay store. All straps are on there, as well as other watches, etc. I've gone for this dark blue color. It does match the dial aesthetic, and I think it matches the watch quite well. And here's the lance on my 6.5-inch wrist on this hybrid FKM strap. Now, with the strap, because it's quite thick, it does need some time to wear in. You do actually need to make it a little bit softer. But here's a watch on wrist. The lug to lug, as you can see, 51 millimeters, is just pointing slightly out. I don't mind the 42 millimeter diameter as much, and the thickness is under 13 mil, so that's okay. But yeah, let's try a different strap and see how that fits. Here's another one on my store, and this is a fully silicone strap. It also has curved ends, so it should fit in the lugs just a bit nicer and on wrist. You also got an added security feature on the end of the strap in one of the keeps, which is found on the top of the keep, and that helps secure the tail end of the strap. Again, brushed hardware. So let's get this on wrist. Let's see how that looks. Now, I think this one fits the best due to those curved ends. So you can see it hugs the wrist a lot better. and of course that keep there holding the strap securely in place. We've got the watch on 3 different silicone straps. Feel free to check out my store so you can see all the straps for sale. I will try on one more. Let's give a leather strap a go. Let's see if that looks any different. And the final strap I've gone with is a leather strap with color match stitching. It looks quite good. It's got sort of a suede texture, this sort of waxy oil finish. You can see as you bend it, it changes color. Now this strap isn't on my store. I've actually bought this from somewhere else just to kind of test out the quality. I am trying to source some leather straps for the store as well, so please keep an eye on that. Let's get this on wrist. I like the color difference. I think it looks quite good on this leather strap, and it might be the one that I stick with for a while. It looks good. So I've got the OM1 back on the original strap, the 2-piece nylon, slightly stiff, does need some time to kind of wear in. So what do I think about this Omnion OM01, the first offering from Proxima on the new brand? Well, I think it's always interesting when you see the first watch from a new brand. It does kind of set the benchmark. What I can say is I love the ingenuity of Proxima's technicians, you know, making this PT5000 so different, modifying it to such an extent, and retaining the movement, you know, without going for a different variant or a different version. I really love that. You know, from an engineering point of view, I think it's fantastic. I like how it works. I love that dial. I think that coloration of the dial is beautiful. The horizontal brushing, again, fantastic choice to go for. And I really like the case finish. It is superb in hand, very high quality. However, I do think the biggest thing that will let this down is just purely on dimensions. I don't normally moan about dimensions, but with a 51mm lug to lug, it's just slightly a touch too long. And I think the shape is quite nice of the case, and I like the curvature on the lugs. It's just if they were a bit shorter, and I think if they concentrated around the 40mm mark, the swatch will be a lot better. And the second thing is they do need to offer more strap choices. This is not the best strap to come with this. I definitely would go for a more softer silicone sportier strap, or maybe a leather one like you saw. Another thing which I wasn't too impressed with was the lume. You can see how the text that's been printed needs to be a bit thicker to make the lume to last just a bit longer. But, you know, if they improve the lume on it, I think this is a fantastic looking watch, and make it a bit smaller if possible. So that's it for me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.